Previously, when a magical retreat signal lit up the sky, Kshatriya split his forces to head deeper into the burning enemy camp and search for Caitlin. Joining him was Felicia, an elven healer he just rescued, who insisted on tagging along to repay her debt and settle a score with the orcs. Expecting Caitlin to be in grave danger, they arrived only to find her going full slaughter mode, single-handedly wiping out the remaining forces with devastating martial arts. After a quick, chaotic reunion, the trio narrowly escaped an enemy pincer movement through a glowing portal, successfully linking back up with Prince Chris and the main army. During a late-night strategy meeting, Chris revealed their next target, striking the forces of Kyram before the remaining enemy tribes can consolidate their power. But as the camp settled down, Felicia paid Kshatriya a late-night visit inside his tent. Dressed in formal attire and looking deadly serious, she dropped a sudden, startling command on the young prince: "Take off your clothes." The elven healer Felicia leans in close to the nervous boy and drops a sudden, startling request: "Could you take off your clothes?" Caught completely off guard, his face flushes deep red as sweat beads on his forehead. He panics and stammers, "Wah, what?" Felicia gently grasps his tunic, her glowing pendant catching the light as she calmly repeats, "Your clothes." Maintaining her cool, clinical composure, she stares right at him while the flustered boy chokes out, "But why?" Looking down with steady crimson eyes, Felicia asks logically, "Don't you want me to heal you?" Comical shock washes over him as his eyes go completely wide and blank. Huh. Soft green magic begins to emanate from her hand as she explains, "What I did earlier was more like first aid." Kneeling beside him in the dim cave, she prepares a proper spell for internal injuries, while he sits shirtless, internally groaning that he expected something else. As magical swirls drift up the cave wall, Felicia asks about his body glowing earlier, but he quickly brushes it off as nothing. Deciding to shift the topic, he boldly speaks up and tells her he has a favor to ask. A quiet grin spreads across his face as he looks at her and adds, "A favor only you can grant me, Felicia." Suddenly, a golden system menu materializes, displaying 3 spell cards for Cure, Cure Poison, and Cure Disease. Back in his dark uniform and red cape, he stretches with a bright smile and exclaims, "Nice, that feels good." Magic sparkles rain down as the system confirms he successfully acquired all 3 new healing spells from Felicia. Next up, the blue-haired elven warrior Caitlin steps forward to begin lecturing him on the different schools of the Beast Fist. His heart races with excitement as Caitlin proudly announces they'll be covering the werewolf's Beast Fist today. A massive glowing blue wolf crest appears, representing the ancient martial art of the lycanthropes. As an illustration of a spectral wolf unleashing claw energy forms, he realizes this art serves as the foundation for the beast god fist. Channeling a bright blue aura from a glowing tome, Caitlin instructs him on the basics of manipulating internal aura. Closing his eyes to center his breathing, a sphere of white energy swells from his chest as Caitlin tells him to focus. Deeply focused on connecting with his inner strength, he whispers to himself, "I can feel it." Pulsing blue pathways glow across his body, defining aura as the power of the soul when pushed to its absolute limit. Gritting his teeth, he fights to maintain control as a massive surge of blue energy violently erupts around him. With a bright golden flash, a triumphant notification pops up: "You have acquired passive skill Protagonist's Physique Level 1. As the magic settles, he glances back at the floating text in complete disbelief and mutters, "Huh." Kshatriya stares in awe at a floating golden system card displaying his newly unlocked passive skill, Protagonist's Physique Level 1. The interface reveals it boosts physical skill training efficiency and unlocks bonus traits every time it levels up. Stunned by the name, Kshatriya mutters, "Protagonist's Physique." Realizing how absurdly lucky he just got, his composure completely breaks. "What the? Another busted skill." The system card expands to reveal 2 additional legendary traits stacked underneath: Archmage's Physique for magic and Hero's Blood for divine power. Kshatriya is completely blown away, realizing his baseline stats just hit main character status. This is totally on par with Zephyr's and Locke's passive skills. Looking closer at the mechanics, Kshatriya realizes this skill has infinite scaling potential, and the fact it unlocks new traits at each level means It's basically a system that adds brand new functions as it levels up. A villainous smirk spreads across the young prince's face as the sheer potential of his growth sinks in. Ha! Fired up by his cheat abilities, Kshatriya pumps his fists in pure triumph. So this is what it means to be the protagonist. This is awesome, so damn awesome, but his ego trip gets cut short as a sharp voice yells out, Kshatriya. Caitlin stands there with her hands on her hips, completely unimpressed by his sudden outburst. What are you doing? Focus. Kshatriya sheepishly backs down. Ah, right, sorry. Clearing away the distraction, Caitlin assumes a strict training stance. Now, let's start training Beast Fist for real. Kshatriya steps up, ready to lock in. Okay, I'm ready. As Kshatriya channels his internal energy, a rushing white aura immediately wraps around his forearms. A golden notification chimes in. You have acquired Beast Fist LV1. Caitlin is caught off guard, genuinely shocked that he mastered the martial art on his very first attempt. To master the basics of Beast Fist so quickly, impressive. Kshatriya stands quietly, looking down at his power. Inspecting his energy-coated hands, Kshatriya feels the dense, lethal force hum. Ming through his palms, even with bare hands, it feels like I'm holding deadly weapons, so this is Beast Fist. Before they can move to the next technique, a panicked lycanthrope soldier bursts into the cavern. Princess, emergency, both Caitlin and Kshatriya turn around instantly. Cutting to the War Council, Prince Chris, the golden-haired elven leader, delivers a serious tactical update. Kairam's troops have disappeared. Looking over the strategy map, Caitlin is stunned by the sudden vanish of enemy forces. What? Chris narrows his eyes, realizing the enemy general anticipated their move. Looks like that bastard Kairam saw through our plan. Caitlin clutches her fist. Then what do we do now? Chris points directly to a narrow mountain pass on the map, laying out their new intelligence. According to intel from General Vandal, Yakujin and Kairam are set to meet here. Kshatriya analyzes the terrain and confirms the theory. Considering the terrain, the prediction's very likely. Chris hardens his resolve. Then, we strike decisively. Chris rallies the room, laying out their aggressive counteroffensive. We're joining up with General Vandal. We'll wage all-out war against the Red Thunder tribe with the main force. The scene transitions to a massive, sunlit military encampment under the mountains. Red Thunder Tribe Subjugation Force main camp. At the camp entrance, General Vandal, a massive, tusked red orc, greets the party. Prince Chris, you've come a long way. Chris grins warmly at his old war ally. You haven't changed a bit. It's been a while, General Vandal. Chris greets the rest of the group before the silver-haired princess cuts straight to business. Enough small talk. How are my subordinates? Vandal reassures her. Don't worry, they're all fine. Standing nearby, Kshatriya watches the imposing orc general with a calm, amused smirk. Staring at Vandal's rugged face, Kshatriya realizes this general was his go-to unit in his previous life's video game, the one I used the most in Night Saga. Is that why even his grim face feels oddly familiar? Without any hesitation, Kshatriya casually walks right up to the terrifying orc commander, raising a hand in greeting. Nice to meet you, Vandal. I'm Kshatriya. General Vandal stares down at him in heavy, intense silence. Vandal extends his colossal hand, crushing the prince's hand in a bone-snapping grip. Yes, nice to meet you, the ninth prince, Kshatriya. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a strange vision. Enveloped in a blinding light, a majestic white-haired woman floats silently in midair. A close-up reveals her striking crown and heterochromatic eyes, one sky blue, the other crimson, as she gazes forward calmly. This serene figure stands in stark contrast to the warrior descending before her, completely wrapped in a roaring vortex of flames. Stepping through the heat, the fiery warrior wears heavy red armor and a dark horned mask, her eyes glowing with supernatural power. As the intense pressure washes over her, the white-haired woman remains unfazed, keeping her eyes locked on the warrior. Behind her dark mask, the warrior's icy blue eyes narrow, radiating pure animosity and readiness for battle. Kshatriya steps out of the shadows, walking directly into the radiant divide separating the fiery warrior and the calm woman in light. A dark, starry void opens up before Kshatra, displaying two glowing seals and the ominous words, Conquest and War. With a sudden gasp, Kshatra sits straight up in his tent, his heart pounding as the vision vanishes. Wiping cold sweat from his forehead, Kshatra mutters breathlessly to himself, a dream. Trying to piece his memories together, he remembers the serene deity. I'm sure I've seen that woman in a dream before, but... His mind shifts to the other menacing presence, troubling him further. Who was that woman in red? Suddenly, an orc soldier yanks open the tent curtain and barks, "Prince, let's move, we're heading out." Kshatra scrambles up. Okay. Kshatra marches out of the tent alongside the massive orc, who carries a heavy battle axe over his shoulder. Outside, the sky is clear and blue, showing no signs of the dark storm brewing ahead. All across the camp, orc soldiers are frantically hoisting supply crates and barrels to prepare for the march. Watching the chaotic preparations, Kshatra mentally locks in. In this battle, I was placed on the left flank. The tactical layout is set. Vandal commands the center, Chris and Caitlin take the right, and Felicia's swift dark elves guard the rear. With positions locked, the army marches forward. Time blurs as they march, and the clear blue sky turns into a blood-red twilight of swirling crimson clouds. Cold sweat pours down Kshatra's face as the reality hits him. I was standing in the middle of the battlefield. Standing as a tiny figure surrounded by thousands of howling beast warriors, Kshatra stares out at the massive enemy army, completely surrounded by awakens. Kshatra stands surrounded by thousands of allied orcs and beastmen as enemy war horns rumble across a blood-red battlefield. At the front, a fierce red-skinned orc commander barks orders to his charging vanguard. Everyone assume combat positions. Narrowing his crimson eyes, the hostile commander glares forward with absolute confidence. Let's teach those bastards what pain truly means. Surging forward like a tidal wave with weapons raised high, the enemy commander screams. All forces advance. The enemy forces sprint relentlessly across the dirt to clash head-on with the coalition's front lines. From the camp shadows, a sinister leader chuckles at the impending clash. Foolish bastards. A massive explosion suddenly rips through the coalition center, scattering allied soldiers as General Vandal watches in total shock. Sweat dripping down his face, General Vandal gasps in horror. What is that? Out of the smoke steps a colossal prehistoric beast with giant tusks and glowing red eyes, sending orcs scattering. General Vandal pales in utter dread as he recognizes the legendary beast, Swamp Mammoth. Each step of the behemoth triggers explosive shockwaves, engulfing the allied lines in a cascade of fire. Simultaneous explosions shatter the coalition's formation, throwing the entire army into absolute chaos. Powerless against the sheer force, allied soldiers are hurled straight through the air by concussive blasts. Kshatra stands completely paralyzed amidst the rising dust while his allies struggle to maintain order. Trembling as cold sweat pours down his face, Kshatra panics. We've been had. As the beasts breathe scorching fire through the ranks, Kshatra realizes, those bastards knew everything from the start. The system identifies the threat, Swamp Mammoth. As the name suggests, it looks like a mammoth, but its size cannot be compared to a mere mammoth. The system notes conclude, in short, it's a genuine monster. Kshatra stands frozen as the giant beast's shadow looms over him with a deafening roar. Suddenly, a scaly reptilian claw slams into the dirt, cracking the earth with immense force. An ambush force of lizardmen steps out of the dust, slitted eyes gleaming as they draw curved blades. Caught completely off guard on the flank, an allied soldier gasps while Kshatra whips his head around in dread. The lizardmen pour in, ruthlessly slashing troops as panic cries echo out. Lizardmen showed up too. A savage lizardman leaps at the paralyzed prince, screaming, Kraa. Kshatra can only stare up in frozen horror. A brave allied orc leaps in just in time, swinging his massive weapon to slice down the jumping attacker. Grabbing the prince, the soldier screams into his face, "Snap out of it! One wrong move and we're all dead here." Snapping out of his shock, Kshatra forces his mind to focus, muttering, all right, Carrick is right, this isn't a game. On the front lines, Prince Chris channels his beast fist to punch straight through enemy lines, sending red orcs flying with bone-shattering force. Gritting his teeth in frustration, Chris rages, "Damn it, don't tell me they knew everything and were just toying with us." Nearby, Caitlin shouts, "Brother." Caitlin urges him to accept reality. "I think it's best we retreat for now and wait for another opportunity." Chris turns back in disbelief. "What?" Pointing to the mounting devastation, Caitlin pleads, "If we make a mistake, we could suffer even greater losses. At this rate, casualties will only increase." Chris stands frozen as his pride wars with duty. Caitlin demands, "Now is the time to retreat, brother." Stealing his resolve, Chris roars, "All forces, listen up. The prince's booming command cuts cleanly through the sounds of clashing blades, giving the exhausted green-skinned soldiers a ray of hope. Standing atop a ridge to guide his army, Chris orders, those who wield magic will establish a defensive line. The rest will quickly form ranks and retreat. Chris shouts with every ounce of his strength, survive and return no matter what, do not die. As night falls, the battered coalition forces pull back into their mountain refuge beneath the dark peaks of the Jishuka Mountains. Exhausted healers work tirelessly by firelight, channeling green restoration magic to patch up the battered soldiers. Inside the command tent, a shameful Chris mutters, "I was too complacent. I should have been suspicious, even just a little." Looking over at Chris, General Vandal states their stark reality. Our only options are to pull back entirely or request reinforcements from the Demon King's castle. Refusing to sacrifice more lives for glory, Chris sighs. I suppose that's what we have to do. I can't drag my subordinates to their deaths. Just as hope seems to fade, Felicia steps forward with a glowing hand, calling out confidently, "Wait, I have an idea." Felicia points to the map, "The reason I came here, As for ruin exploration at the edge of the Jishuka Mountains, Shatra remembers her profile as the system confirms. Felicia is an excellent mage, but her traits were geared towards research and ruin exploration rather than combat. Felicia leans forward, unrolling a detailed map of the ancient mountain structures onto the table. Tapping a point on the map, Felicia explains, "I've been researching the 1,500-year-old ruin, lair of the Earth Dragon Enkidu." Felicia reveals, Enkidu employed dwarven guardians to create weapons to protect its lair. Caitlin blinks in surprise. Weapons. Felicia introduces the relic, the Thunderbirthing Anvil. It can control guardian chimeras and cast army-scale magic. Slapping her hands onto the table, Felicia declares, "If we want to win, finding this is our only option." With their path forward set, the coalition turns its hopes toward the dragon's lair to turn the tide of war.